Yes, I know The Amazing Spider-Man 2 has not been out for a full year. However, I feel like waiting a full year for a movie to come out is a little too long. The only reason I did Star Trek Into Darkness and why I plan to do Man of Steel, maybe Pacific Rim, and Frozen soon is because they would have been a year old by the time I'm doing this. But anyway, the format for my Back from the Future reviews is going to be, once they come out on Blu-ray, I'll rewatch them and talk about them. So, let's get on with The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Back when I reviewed the movie in May, I gave it 2 ratings. The first one was my own personal thoughts, which meant it was good but not great. And then I gave another rating, which was for everyone out there who's not that big into comic book movies, saying watch at your own risk, because it had a lot of issues, and if you were to pick one Marvel movie that was out at the time, Winter Soldier was the better one to pick. However, after thinking about the movie, after putting up my review and my spoiler review, I thought, you know what, maybe this movie is not as good as I remember it. I mean, it was pretty much, I was having the Man of Steel effect, and this is pretty much this year's Man of Steel, that one controversial movie that some people like, some people hate. It's just one big ball of controversy, although, in my personal opinion, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, I think, is a bigger disappointment than Man of Steel, because I'm much more into Spider-Man than I am into Superman, and I don't know, it's just more disappointing. But before I go into what disappointed me about this movie, I want to start with the positives. One, the chemistry between both Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield is superb. You buy the fact that they're in love, they love each other, and, I mean, yeah, there are a couple in real life, but it definitely is shown in this movie. The Spider-Man character, the character of Spider-Man, is a perfect interpretation. The perfect costume. Andrew Garfield plays really smart science guy and sarcastic web crawler flawlessly. The web swinging is amazing, even though there is like one shot where like it looks like a GoPro camera is attached to Spider-Man's crotch as he's swinging through the movie. If you saw the movie, you kind of know what I'm talking about. And I actually like the score, which is something that a lot of people complained about, like, the score is not that good, Hans Zimmer really sleptwalked through making this. I'm like, no, I actually listen to it frequently. I mean, okay, when I saw the movie again, it didn't really fit for a Spider-Man movie, but on its own, I thought it was a pretty unique score, definitely catchy. I'll stand by my statement and say that it's definitely something you'd hear at a club or at City Walk. So I really thought the score was good. It was very unique, and I really liked all the techno aspects of the score, particularly with Electro's theme. But speaking of Electro, let's move into the stuff that I didn't like. Let's start off with the villains. You can tell that this is very much Sony's movie, that Mark Webb was kind of forced to put a lot of these things in there, because like Spider-Man 3, they villain overload, and Electro is, he's set up to be the main villain of the movie, but then there's a certain point where he just gets sidelined. His motivation for being evil is just, like, I had a hard time believing it when I first saw it. Your motivation for being evil is that you got pissed off at Spider-Man for being an attention hog? Is that really it? And, like, after a while, I was like, no, that can't be it. But after seeing it a few days ago, I'm like, no, that's really his motivation for being evil. He's just pissed off at Spider-Man for being an attention hog. Like, that, it really sucks, because when he's Max Dillon, when he's nerdy Jamie Foxx, you really do like the guy. You feel some sort of sympathy for him, but then it's just thrown out the way when he gets pissed off that Spider-Man's an attention hog. It's like, this is... what motivated that, honestly? And plus, once Electro is sidelined, he's taken out of the movie and doesn't come back until the final battle, where he gets this leather suit with a lightning bolt, just in case you forgot that he shoots electricity. And it's just... I don't know. Electro was a waste. Probably the worst villain motivation I've ever seen in a movie. And what I've said for the Rhino applies here. Wasted. Paul Giamatti's terrible. He acts more retarded than he does Russian, and the Rhino suit, the Mecha Rhino, it just looks so bizarre. And lastly, with the Osborns, Chris Cooper, as I mentioned in my other reviews, he plays Norman Osborn. What a waste of Chris Cooper and the character of Norman Osborn. I mean, like when I watched the first Spider-Man movie recently, Willem Dafoe hams it up, but at least he's very enjoyable. He really committed to that role in a very cheesy, over-the-top way. Chris Cooper, all they do with Norman Osborn in this movie is just he's mentioned in The Amazing Spider-Man 1, and then he's in bed like green sickly with these like weird claws that's supposed to represent a goblin, but I don't know. All he's there like to introduce the character, just kill him off, and it's like ugh. And then for Harry Osborn, I thought Dane DeHaan did a good job, but I don't know. It felt so rushed. Like you can't just introduce this character, say that they've been friends for a long time, even though he's been gone for 10 years, and then just make him a villain at the end by putting him in the goblin suit. And I mean, there was not a moment where I thought that Harry and Peter were best friends, and they just rushed his transformation into being the goblin just so they could kill Gwen Stacy, which... Ugh. I'm very conflicted about the Gwen Stacy death. Okay, let me say, the entire sequence and, like, the effect once she actually dies, it kind of works. I like the different location. The comics, it's the bridge. Here, it's a clock tower. It's a cool location. Definitely makes things a lot more tense. And when Gwen Stacy dies, you feel emotion because Garfield and Stone had such good chemistry together that it was kind of sad. At the same time, they butchered the death in a way because I read the Death of Gwen Stacy comic right after seeing the movie a second time. I decided to walk by my local Barnes & Noble to see if they had an issue, and they had this little compilation comic of Gwen Stacy's death and what happens afterwards. And, like, Gwen Stacy's death was caused by Norman Osborn, who, like, I've always thought that Venom was Spider-Man's archenemy because they were both alike, but no, Norman Osborn's Green Goblin, I think, for killing Gwen Stacy, and the fact they had a history with Spider-Man before that, really makes him the main villain for Spider-Man, similar to what the Joker is for Batman, or what the Red Skull is to Captain America. And then Gwen Stacy's death was kind of the final straw, the point where, after Spider-Man saw that Gwen was dead, he's like, I'm going to kill this son of a bitch no matter what happens. Like, this is the worst thing the Green Goblin's ever done to me outside of killing me or another close person, and I'm going to find this guy and kill him. And so with The Amazing Spider-Man 2, because they rushed the whole Harry Osborn turning into the Goblin, you don't get a sense that there's tension between Peter and Harry once they're finally villains. And plus, you kill Norman Osborn at the beginning of the movie, and like in this universe, Peter Parker's never met Norman Osborn, which also it's just, I don't know, Norman Osborn is such a thriller character. But back to how Gwen's death is kind of butchered. I mean, again, when it does happen, it admittedly works. I mean, the second time seeing the movie, it did work on me. But just the circumstances leading into it, it's just kind of butchered. It's just details, but they're big details. There's something that I can't forgive at all. It's just a mess of a movie. They just rushed it just so they could set up Sinister Six, and more importantly, keep Spider-Man from going back to Marvel so he can join the Avengers, which everyone wants to see. Sony will not let that happen. And then there are other problems I had with the movie. Like, they had to play out the mystery behind Peter's parents again, even though that could have been solved in the first movie. The happy ending, which... Okay, this is from the same scriptwriting team that did Star Trek Into Darkness. Robert Orci and Alex Kurtzman, which I like Into Darkness. You can check out my old review and my Back from the Future review for it, but in both times I've seen it, I had a problem with the ending. Felt that it was kind of rushed. The same thing happens here, but more insultingly, when they actually, go back to how the Rhino's wasted, like, the final fight, like, the final shot of the movie is the Rhino and Spider-Man charging at each other, and then it just cuts to credits, and that's just a cock tease. It happens after Gwen's death, where Spider-Man, like, goes away, because of the death. It's like, I won't be Spider-Man anymore because I'm responsible for this. And it should have ended there, but no, they just had to have that stupid ending, which that little kid comes out trying to be Spider-Man, like, I'm going to take on the Rhino. It's like, ugh, I hate these situations. Oh, another thing I can't fucking stand is the Ghost Leary. They bring Dennis Leary back just so he can be a ghost to, for only Peter to see, and it's just, like, so cliched. Doesn't do anything. It's just a waste of Dennis Leary again. It's just... Ugh, I don't know. So you can tell that watching this movie a second time, I don't like it. I actually think it's worse than Spider-Man 3. I mean, now look, first of all, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is not god-awful. I mentioned some good things about it, and there are a few other good things I didn't mention, like the rest of the acting's good, even if some characters are wasted. Another thing I don't like is that there's this scientist character who, if I'm correct, in the comics, this character is a woman. I'm talking about the scientist who, like, kind of performs on Electro. In the comics, this character is a woman, but here, like, they turned him into a guy, which, okay, maybe I could give that a pass if they didn't turn him into some German or Russian stereotype. It's like, I want to experiment on you and help you. Which, it's like, okay, Arnim Zola could get away with it because he was originally a Nazi, but this character, not only do you turn a female character from the comics into a man, but you make him this Russian or German cartoon that near the end, last time we see him, he's doing his best Christopher Lloyd Judge Doom impersonation from Who Framed Roger Rabbit. But, okay, getting back to the point. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is not god-awful. The Amazing Spider-Man series on itself is not awful. It's not the worst thing that's ever happened to Spider-Man. It's just wasted potential. Like, something that could be great, but Sony just has no idea what they're doing with it. Spider-Man 3, at the very least, had a little bit of heart and some entertainment value. The Amazing Spider-Man 2 just didn't feel... It just felt heartless. It didn't have any soul. And plus, there's the unfortunate fact for The Amazing Spider-Man 2 that Captain America the Winter Soldier, X-Men Days of Future Past, and Guardians of the Galaxy came out this year. All three of those movies were great. And this is just not. So, I don't hate this movie, but I'm not a fan of it. I'm going to reduce my rating to watch at your own risk. It's got some good elements there, but in the end, it is just wasted potential. And I know it's not going to happen, but I would like Spider-Man to join the Avengers at some point. Or Sony needs to get their act together and actually just give us a good movie rather than making the same mistake they made in Spider-Man 3 and in this movie. So that's all I have to say on my second review for The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Leave a comment on what you thought of the movie. Subscribe to my channel for more stuff in the future. You can check out my video blog channel, AlexG8462. You can find links to my Twitter, Facebook, Tumblr, and Instagram accounts on this YouTube page. Go check me out on Letterboxd.com under the name Mr. Robinson, as well as my written reviews on GeekedOutNation.com. Share me with your friends and tell them about me, and I'm the real Mr. Robinson telling you there is only one. I'll see you guys later.